Good morning. Today we are going to learn lesson 5, the Sangam age. In this lesson, we have to learn mainly about meaning of Sangam age and the sources of Sangam age. In sources, mainly Tirupur. The three main topics we have to learn, two main topics we have to learn are Sangam age and its meaning. Second one, sources and its sources, mainly Tirupur. Okay, this will learn more about this lesson. This actually this Sangam age, this lesson is about three dynasties of South India. Sangam age refers to the or mention about three dynasties of South India. They are the Cheras, Cholas and Pandyas. Okay, first we learn what is Sangam age. What is Sangam? Sangam is actually a Sanskrit word. It is the Tamil form of the Sanskrit word Sangam. Sangam is the Tamil form of the Sanskrit word Sangam. Sangam means group or association. In South India, between 1st century BC and 2nd century AD, association or meetings of poets and bards were held. And in these meetings, or in this gathering of the poets and writers, large number of books were composed. And these books or this literature is called Sangam literature. And this meeting is called Sangam. And the period in which the Sangam literature was composed is called Sangam age. Between the period of 1st century BC and 2nd century AD. That means almost some 300 years gap. Almost in 300 years and 3 centuries. Three meetings of writers and poets were held in South India, especially in the Pandyan kingdoms. And in these meetings, large number of writers and poets participated and they composed so many books. These books or this literature is called Sangam literature. And this period is called Sangam age. The first Sangam, it is believed that the first Sangam was mainly participated by gods and legendary figures. Unfortunately, none of the works, none of their books are perished. Sorry, all the books are perished. None of the books are available. And the second Sangam was participated by many poets, but all the books perished except one, that is Tolkappiyam. Tolkappiyam by Tolkappia. Tolkappia wrote a book named Tolkappiyam. Tolkappiyam by whom? Tolkappia. So, only this book was available, and this is considered as Tolkappia is considered as the first Tamil book of the earliest books of the Sangam age. This is a grammar book. Then again, in the third Sangam also, large number of poets and writers participated, and they composed a number of books. Many of them perished, but large number of books were available even today. more than 4,000 books. We can say thousands of books were composed in the third Sangam. And all these books are not giving much information about the Sangam age. Some of the books give us detailed information about the Sangam age. And one of such book that gives a detailed information about Sangam age is Tirukkural. Tirukkural by Tiruvalluvar. Tiruvalluvar wrote a famous book named Tirukkural. This is one of the most important resources of Sangam age. This is part of the Padinangal Kanakku. Padinangal Kanakku, there is a group of 18 books. A group of 18 books, of which one is Tirukkural. And this is one of the most famous of the 18 books. Tirukkural is one of the most famous books of the Padinangal Kanakku. Padinangal Kanakku, that means 18 lesser books. 18 major books are there. These are 18 lesser books, and that is why it is called Padinangal Kanakku. And of which Tirukkural is one of the major books. It is written by Tiruvalluvar. Tirukkural is also known as Kural. It is also known as Kural. Other name of Tirukkural. And this Tiruvalluvar, the author, he was a famous writer, he was a poet, and he was a philosopher also. This Tirukkural has been divided into three parts. It has been divided into three parts. The three parts are Aram. First one is Aram. Aram means righteousness. Righteousness. Second one is Urul. Urul means wealth. And the third one is Imbam. Imbam or it is about pleasure. Okay. Tirukkural has been divided into three parts. They are Aram. Aram means righteousness. Urul means wealth, and Imbam or Kam, that means pleasure. Is Aram righteousness or Dharma Shastras? Okay. Urul or wealth, that is Artha Shastra, and Imbam or Kam is pleasure, that means Kama Sutra. So the three parts of the it is a combination of Dharma Shastras, Artha Shastra, and Kama Sutra. That is the three parts: Aram, Urul, and Imbam or Kama. This it has 13. This Tirukkural has been divided into 13 chapters, and it is a composition of. It is composed of couplets. Tirukkural is a book of, or it is a composition of couplets. It has 133 chapters, and each chapter deal with a specific subject. So 133 chapters are there, and each chapter deals with a specific subject. That's all about the Tirupur. Three parts. Three parts. Around in Imbam, and 133 chapters are there, and it is a collection of couplets. Couplets, you know what is couplets. Couplets means poem of 2 lines. That is couplets. So Tirupur is a collection of couplets. Then Tirupur, there is the literary source. Another one is the archaeological source. That is Megalis. Another important source about the Sangam caves, megaliths. Megaliths are huge stones found at burial sites. Huge stones found at burial sites are called megaliths. These megaliths are different in size and shape. Some of these megaliths are simply very big stones which were kept on the burial site or above a grave or about on the burial yard. Okay. Whereas some other megaliths are box-like structure made of stone slabs. Some of the megaliths are box-like structure, and this structure was made of stone slabs. And some other megaliths are box-like structure, or it is almost having this as a tent and having an opening on one side. That means through that opening one can enter into that box. So in such a shape, in such a pattern, megaliths are also there. So megaliths are different size and different shape, and these are huge stones found on various sites. You understand this much? Megaliths are huge stones found on various sites. They may differ in shape and size. The renowned historian Champakalakshmi says something about these megaliths. In Sangam literature, mention about Velir and Vellards are given. Many of the Sangam poems, there are mention about Velir and Vellards. Velir and Vellards. Velir means chieftain. Chieftain or chief. Okay. And Vellar means peasant. Peasant. So many of the Sangam poets mention about the Velir and Vellards are there, and Champakalakshmi, historian Champakalakshmi also studied about these poems and about studying these megalithic sites, and from there, from her findings, she proved these things mentioned in the poems, that she found many of the evidences to prove that this Sangam culture, that was the last phase of megalithic culture in Tamil Nadu. or in South India. This Sangam culture is, or the Sangam age was the last phase of megalithic culture in South India or in the Tamil Nadu. That was one of the main findings of Chambakalakshmi, historian Chambakalakshmi. Okay. Then chieftains, that means how will learn? Chieftains will learn in the next story. Okay, that's about megalithic. Then the next one is the chieftains. Chieftains. So sources are our sources mainly this Tirupur of Tiruvallur and Nagaras. These are the two main sources we have to learn. The next topic is chieftains. The Sangam poets mentioned about the chieftains are there or villagers are there, and these villagers were working just as the independent rulers. They were also less powerful rulers of a particular area, particular locality, and they helped the king in the administrative matters and in various matters. These chieftains helped the king. They gave patronage to the poets. These chieftains gave patronage to poets. They were patrons of poets, bards, and their consorts. So some of the main chieftains. Some of the main chieftains are 7 patrons. The main chieftains are called 7 patrons. So 7 patrons are, in Tamil language it is called 7 patrons. 7 patrons. In Tamil language or in Sangam literature, they are termed as Kadaivelur Valu. These chieftains are termed as, or the 7 patrons are termed as Kadaivelur Valu in Sangam literature. And these Kadaivelur Valu, these 7 patrons are, they are also termed in the Sangam literature as Pariyori Malayan Eleni Paganai Nandi. Pariyori Malayan Eleni Paganai Nandi. These are the 7 patrons, or these are the Kadaivelur. They are Pari, Ori, Eleni, Malay, Pagan, I, and Nandi. These are the so-called Kadaivelur or 7 patrons. So they were liberal and they were very helpful to the king or the rulers, and they were patrons of the poets and bards. Okay, that's all about the chieftains. Then next topic is society. We are not going into these topics in much detail. We are just getting an idea of it. Society, Sangam society there was social division in Sangam society. According to Tolkappia in his Tolkappia says that there were 4 castes during the Sangam age. Tolkappia says that there were 4 castes during the Sangam age. The 4 castes are Brahmins, kings, traders, and farmers. These are the 4 castes prevalent in Sangam age. This is the opinion of Tolkappia. Okay, we get this information from Tolkappia only. But according to some other historians, there was no much social divisions in the society. Society was divided mainly into 2. Okay, some others say that society was divided mainly into 2, and this division was on the basis of high origin and low origin. Okay, on the basis of high origin and low origin. Okay, status of family. On the basis of status of family or high origin or low origin, there was 2 social divisions. Our society was divided into 2. Brahmins and their parents were considered as of high origin. So Brahmins and the common people were differentiated from the Brahmins and their parents. Okay, so these were Brahmins and the common people. These were the 2 castes or 2 groups in the society according to some other historian. Anyhow, society was mostly casteless. Okay, whatever may be the opinion, Tolkappia says 4 castes, but he is also not telling that much rigid caste system was there. Some other historians say that there was only 2 groups, that is based on the high origin and the low origin. But we can understand one thing, that the society was mostly casteless. There was no much caste system. These traders were also somewhere or sometimes termed as Vaishyas, and for traders and farmers, they all had assigned their own duties and responsibilities. Okay, that's all about the society. The next, economy. Economy was mostly self-sufficient. Sangam economy was self-sufficient. People were industrious. People were hardworking. That's why both rich and poor people were lived in Sangam age. Both were there. Rich people were there and poor people were also there. And most of the people engaged in agriculture. The main occupation of the people was agriculture. Other professions were also there. Main profession or main occupation, that was agriculture. The most important crop cultivated by the Sangam farmers were rice or paddy. Padi. Padi was the most important cultivation for this Sangam people or Sangam farmers. Besides Padi or besides rice, cotton was there. Okay, some other cultivation: cotton, sugarcane, ginger, cardamom, cinnamon, turmeric, pepper, then various other fruits. Okay, varieties of fruits were also cultivated by this Sangam farmers. And these, if we are talking about their food, their dress and amusements, they used rice as their principal food crop. The main food was rice. Grains, the most important grain was rice. So the main food of Sangam people was grains. Okay. Besides rice, other grains were also used. So we can say most important one was rice only. So we can say grains. Grains. Then what else? Then meat. Okay. Meat, fish. Then vegetables, milk, and milk products were the main food items of the Sangam people. Grains, meat, fish, vegetables, milk, and milk products were the main food items of the Sangam people. They used beaten rice and rice flour to make or to prepare various dishes. Okay. Grain flours, mainly the powder of rice. Okay. Rice flour and beaten rice. Beaten rice, that is a processed form of rice. Okay. Beaten rice and this beaten rice and grain flour, these were used to make various or different varieties of dishes. Appam was one of the main dish of the Sangam people. Then their food and dress, regarding their dress, the Sangam people used two pieces of cloth, one to wear in the upper body and on the lower body, another piece of cloth. Two pieces of cloth were used by the Sangam people, that is to cover the upper body and the lower body, one each piece. Both men and women were fond of wearing ornaments. Irrespective of men and women, all the people wore ornaments, and these children wore a necklace made of tiger teeth. That means necklace means it is not fully a necklace. There was a locket. Okay, in the necklace they used to wear a locket, and this locket was of tiger teeth. So these were some of the dress of the Sangam people. Then the next one, amusements or entertainment. Amusements mainly music and dance. Music and dance were the main amusements. Besides this, they engaged or they entertained with the games like cock fighting. Okay, cock fighting, that is something new to you, maybe. Cock. They trained their cock to fight. So cock fighting, then goat fighting, goat. Okay, another one is goat fighting. Then what is rustling? Rustling, that is fighting between men. So similarly, they were fond of. We can understand one thing. We can come to a conclusion that they were fond of fighting. Wrestling, god fighting, cock fighting. Same way, people or human beings are fighting. Similarly, there is wrestling. Similarly, gods are fighting, god fighting, cock fighting, cock fighting. So thus, cock fighting, wrestling, god fighting, gambling, etc. were some other entertainments of the some people. Children engage in different types of games. Okay, that's all about their amusements. Then another thing, that is the land division. Land division during the time of Sangam, during the assembly of land division. The entire Tamil Nadu was divided into 5 zones, and these zones are called Thinai. Tamil Nadu was divided into 5 zones called Thinai. T-I-N-A-I, Thinai. This Thinai, the Thinai, different Thinais are. First one is called Kurinji. Kurinji, that was a land division. This means, Kurinji means backwoods and forest land. Backward or a forest land. Forest land, backward or a hilly region. Okay, we can say hilly region also. Okay. These are called Kurinji. Second one is Palai. Palai. Palai means partial zone. Partial zone. Okay. Third one, Mulai. Mulai means pastoral land. Pastoral land or pastoral tract. That is called Mulai. Fourth one, Marudam. Marudam, that is wetland. And the fifth one is Nepal. Nepal means coastal region. Okay, these are the 5 divisions of the Tamil Nadu. And the occupation of the people living in this region was also different according to the nature of the land. Okay, Kurinji was backwoods or forest land or hilly region. Okay, backward hilly region, that Kurinji, and this area was not suitable for cultivation. Okay, that's why the people used to, they were mostly hunters. The people in Kurinji was mostly hunters and food gatherers, because there was no possibility to cultivate anything, because the Himalayan region it is not much possible to cultivate there. Forest land, okay, it is not much possible to cultivate there. And backward region, okay, it is full of trees. That's why it was not much suitable for cultivation nor animal rearing. Okay, that's why the people in Kurinji region, they depended on hunting and food gathering for their subsistence. Their subsistence that was different according to the Tinay. The second one was Palai. Palai means pasture zone. Pasture zone, that we can say dried out land. Dried out land due to excess heat or due to less rainfall. This pasture zone or this Palai was totally dried land, and cultivation was not at all possible there. This land was not at all suitable for cultivation nor for animal rearing, and that is why the people living in Palai region had nothing for their subsistence. That is why they used to steal others' properties. They were mainly animal lifters. They went to other villages and they picked the animals of the others, cattle of others, and they were stealing the properties and the things of the others. So the occupation of the people living in Palai was mostly theft. Okay, stealing. That was the main occupation. And Mulai, that is a pastoral land. It is pastoral land. Mulai was pastoral land. That is why these people living in this region, they used to rear animals. Okay, they were animal rearers, and at the same time, pastoral land means suitable for animal rearing, that is suitable for cultivation also. So people living in Mulai, they were both cultivators and animal rearers. And Marudam, that was wetland. Okay, marshy region and wetland. Plenty in water. So this watery land, that is also not suitable for all types of cultivation. That's why the crops like barley, rice, etc. that was cultivated in the Marudam or wetland. And the other one, Nepal, coastal region. So people living in coastal region mostly depended on the activities based on sea. Okay. So that's why their main occupation was fishing and manufacturing of salt. So these were the main occupations of the people living in the 5 different things. Okay, that's all about the land division. Then another topic. There is the position of women. Okay. Position of women. Status of women. The women have a good status in Sangam society, but they were not considered as equal to men. There was no equality between men and women, but they enjoyed good position in the society. Women got education. There were women teachers, and they had a good status, good place. Women led different ways of life. Some of the women, or mostly the women, led married life, family life. They led married life. They took care of their husband, their children, and thus they were leading a life of an ideal wife. So some of the women in the society were leading family life. Okay, married woman leading family life. There are some others did not marry. They led the life of an ascetic. Ascetic, that means a nun. Okay. Many women joined with Buddhism and Jainism, and they went for preaching Buddhism and Jainism. They did not marry. They dedicated their lives for preaching or spreading Buddhism and Jainism. So thus they led the life of an ascetic, or they were nuns. And the third category, they were courtesans. That means prostitutes. So anyhow, whatever may be, these women held a good place in Sangam society. Okay, that's all about the women. Now, trade. Now, what is the trade? Trade. The Sangam people, the Sangam rulers, they carried, Sangam people, they carried on both internal and external trade, domestic and foreign trade. Most of their trade was carried on through barter system. There was no use of currency. That's why this trade was carried on through barter system. And the means of transportation they used were mainly these caravans. Animals were also used for transporting the goods from one city to another city, or one place to another place. This Sangam literature says about the foreign trade of people. They had an extensive foreign trade. The Sangam people had an extensive foreign trade. They had a good trade relation with the Roman Empire. Sangam traders maintained a good trade relation with the Roman Empire. And its examples are also there. The Periplus. In the book Periplus, its author tells that the Roman traders had trade relation with the Indian people. And we can see large number of Roman coins, gold and silver coins. Large number of gold and silver coins of Roman Empire has excavated from Tamil Nadu. And this shows that, this proves the opinion, the view of the author of Periplus. Then further, we can see in the Periplus, certain names we can see, and the names like Tindi, then Muziris, okay, Nora, like these names we can see in the Periplus, and these names are the old names of some of the South Indian cities like Ponnani, Kannanur, okay, Crankanur, like cities are mentioned in the Periplus as Muziris, okay, then Tindis and Nora, etc. So all these prove that the Sangam people had trade relation with the Roman Empire. The foreign trade, they mainly exported their agricultural products, especially the spices, and in return to that, they brought horses, glass, gold, etc. They brought back. Mostly these were barter system. That's why they brought back these items, gold, then horses and glass, etc. They brought back to India. Okay, that's all about the trade. Okay, that's all. We have 3 more topics left. We have not touched the topics Cheras, Cholas, and Pandyas, but actually there is not in these topics are not there in the current year syllabus. But you can read the lesson. You read it well, you understand the things, and you find out the question answers and write it and learn it well. That's all. Thank you.